Could you imagine having a friend that goes missing after she tells you a dark and important secret? And no one, at least not the adults in her family, bother to report her missing until 41 years after she vanishes? If so, this is the case of Christine James. If you would like to know more, please continue watching.
You are watching Roll a Mile in My Shoes TV.
Depending on who you ask, Christine James was born on March 27th or March 28th of 1968 to her parents, Lizzie Mae Williams and Freddie James, and they had a total of 6 children. Now, little Christine attended Wildwood Middle School in Coleman, Florida. And little Christine had a very chaotic upbringing because it is rumored that her mother was addicted to drugs. And it is also rumored that little Christine was being molested by 2 of her family members, and one of which who died while he was serving time in prison for molesting his own daughter. And the other was a cousin, Robert Jackson Jr., who had continuously molested little Christine. And this is, something that happens very often, even though a lot of times it's not talked about, but it happens very often in the African American community. No matter how some people try to sweep it under the rug or hide it, it is very well known that it happens, in the African American community a lot. And, a lot of time these people are not even, jailed or prosecuted for these crimes, because in most families, people make people feel ashamed of this, so they keep it a secret. And, it never comes out, and it continues as a cycle until somebody, finally agrees to break this cycle. And this is something that was probably going on in little Christine James's family. According to the Charlie Project, in May of 1979, Christine was in the family home with her mother, her mentally challenged brother, and her mentally challenged uncle. Her cousin, Robert Jackson Jr., knocked on the front door. Christine's mentally challenged cousin, or uncle rather, was told by Christine's mother not to let the man in, but the man, not knowing any better, he let Robert into the house anyway. And that is where the trouble began. Christine's mother pushed him out the front door, but before that she had stabbed him, and the knife was still lodged in him. Robert was able to make it to a neighbor's house across the street, which is where he died. Then the Fort Lauderdale newspaper printed this article on May 26th of 1979, stating that an 11-year-old babysitter had killed Robert. The newspaper had printed it as an 11-year-old babysitter stabbed to death a 17-year-old acquaintance. And it was said that he forced his way into the mobile home and beat and kicked the young girl during an argument. Deputies said this, and they also said the boy Robert Jackson died at a hospital emergency room from a stab wound to the back, which penetrated his heart, and the doctors confirmed this. When the detectives on the case were interviewed and asked about the murder that was committed, Lieutenant Jim Roops said that the only crime that was committed by the deceased person, Robert Jackson, and he said that he battered this little girl and beat her, and that was the only crime he committed. And he said she was also in fear of her life. And you can only imagine being only 11 years old and having someone who is 17, which at the time might seem to you to be much older when it's actually only 6 years older, beating and battering you. And it is also said that this man was continuously molesting you, so you could be, as I imagine she was, in fear of your life if you don't do something about this. But then it later, came out, or was rumored that, her mother was the one to stab him in the back, and, the little girl, Christine, took the blame for her mother. And, you'll see how this has an effect on her later in the story. Now, at the time of this incident, if you'll remember, I had said earlier in the video that Christine's mentally challenged uncle opened the door for the cousin, even though her mom had told him not to, and he let Robert in. But at the time, Christine was babysitting her 5-year-old brother at her aunt's mobile home when on that Wednesday when Jackson forced his way into the home. Now I feel like that's not really kind of true there, because the uncle, even though he was mentally challenged, was the one to open the door for him after being told not to. So I don't think he actually forced his way into the home, if that part of the story is correct. And then the trouble began from there too, once he got inside the home, because he insisted on turning on the television, which the little girl's aunt had told her not to use. And that's what Lieutenant Roops had said when he was being interviewed about the argument and fight that had erupted. And he said during this time, Jackson beat and kicked little Christine, and she grabbed the kitchen knife and stabbed him in the back once. And he said that witnesses said that they saw Jackson run from the mobile home with a knife in his back, yelling, "Christine stabbed me." And I know it might not be the right thing to do, but can you imagine, someone who is 17 at the time and you're 11, you're going to think that they are much bigger and much stronger than you because, they are taller than you. So you being an 11-year-old, you're going to think that anybody who's taller than you, they're stronger and bigger than you. And you got to remember, this little girl had been molested time and time again by this man, and he was one of the individuals that was molesting her. So I'm pretty sure, she probably thought, I don't want to go through this again, so I got to defend myself, especially now that this man has, been beating me and kicking me. So there's no telling what's going to happen after, he gets his hands on me in that way. So she had to defend herself, although it's not right to, kill anyone. But yet again, this is in self-defense. And, he should have known better than to do that. And, he should have listened to her when she told him, that their aunt had told him not to use the television. And I'm pretty sure she didn't want to get in trouble for, what she thought, would be seen as her disobeying the aunt's rules, and, she really couldn't do anything to stop him, of course, but she, took it upon herself to defend herself. So I don't see anything wrong with that. So I agree with the sheriff who said that the only crime was committed that day was by him when he decided that he was going to beat her and kick her and all this stuff. So, in my eyes, he deserved what he got. even though it might not be right to some people for her to have done what she did. But yet again, she was only defending herself the best way she could think of at the time. Even though people don't think that she should have been indicted for his murder, seeing as he was one of the people that was molesting her, and also at the time she was defending herself against him. Sometime after that, Christine was indicted for the murder of Robert, and she was sent to a detention facility. But people also suspect that she took the blame for her mother so her mother could avoid prison. And no one is sure of the dates that Christine entered this detention facility or the date that she was released from the center. It was either in 1979 or 1980. And some people believe that the time affected memory, and due to the time lapse of the many years that have gone by, records have been lost and some family members are now deceased. But Christine's friend, who she had known for many years, stated that one day during their 6th grade year at school, Christine had told her that she was pregnant with twins and planned to run away. Now, this is really confusing because, I mean, this little girl, she's 11, even though she's been molested for many, many years by this point. She's 11, and I'm pretty sure she didn't go to the doctor and things of that nature. But, back then, things were a lot different, than they are now. But she didn't, I'm pretty sure, go to a doctor, and no doctor told her this. But however, she told her friend that she was pregnant with twins and planned to run away. Her friend tried to convince her to tell her mother, but Christine said that she was afraid of the reaction that her mother, Lizzie Mae, might have. Now, this is very hard for me to even wrap my head around, because if your mother, which she probably did have some speculations or probably did know about, knew that she was being molested by these two people, which is one of which she killed, why would she have a reaction to this girl possibly being pregnant, considering the fact that it could have possibly, been somebody in the family who they didn't know was, molesting her, because by this time, the last person that was molesting her had died, and, because she killed him, of course. Or it could have been somebody that she came across, when she was in the detention center. And I hate to think of it that way, but that could possibly, be also. But I just don't understand how, if she probably would have had a bad reaction to her being pregnant, how could she have, felt that way? Because, look at all the little girl had been through. But her best friend had stated that, she tried to convince her to stay, but, Christine was afraid of her mom's reaction. But according to Christine's sister, Maggie, Christine vanished a day or two after she was released from the detention center. Now, this is really, really, really strange because, this little girl had been home for, 1 or 2 days and she vanished. Now, this makes me wonder, did the mother know that she was pregnant and that's why the little girl vanished, because the mother got rid of her? I have a lot of questions. But nevertheless, Maggie said Christine rode the bus to school that morning, and she remembers seeing her coming home from school, and she changed her clothes and said that she was going out. And that would be the last time, anybody would see her, because even though she said she would, come back home, she never returned. And this was on the same day that Christine had confided in her friend that she, was pregnant and that she was going to run away. And, they said that Christine has never been seen since. And they said that no one reported her missing. This is really, really, really strange to me because no one reported her missing. And it said that her sister asked their mother if she was worried about Christine, and Lizzie Mae would say that she wasn't worried and Christine should be fine. Their mother, Lizzie Mae, passed away in 1990 or 91. Her father also passed away, and one of Christine's sisters is also deceased. Maggie, she is still alive and she wants answers, and she said that she never stopped caring about or thinking about her sister, and she just wants to bring her home. But it's really strange that her parents never reported her missing, so it kind of makes me think that they had something to do with her death, possibly, or her disappearance rather, because why would you not report your child missing? I don't care if you as the mother or the father do it, but one of them should have reported her missing. And that is so tragic that neither one of them reported her missing, and her sister waited until both of them were deceased in order to report her missing. But nonetheless, at least her sister got it done. Christine's sister Maggie is now the voice for her, and she finally was reported missing in 2021, and she is now listed as a missing person. Christine James was 5'6" or 5'7" and weighed 120 pounds to 140 pounds when she vanished. If anybody has any information, please let the Florida Police Department know. The smallest tip can help bring this girl home, whether it be deceased or alive. But the smallest tip, no matter how small it may seem, can help bring her home. So please try to do this and help this family. And I'm pretty sure her sister, Maggie, will appreciate it. And her friend, if she's still alive, will also appreciate it. Even though she wasn't reported until 41 years to be exact, until after she was missing. Please think of anything that you may know, no matter how small. It may be able to help bring her home. So please contact the Florida Police Department and let them know that you have this tip. And I'm pretty sure you can remain anonymous. But if you guys like this video, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next one.